Welcome to the Singularity Syndicate podcast, where we demystify transformative technologies shaping our future. Joining me today is Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media, and we will be talking about AI in advertising and the future of marketing and media buying. And now, here's Robert Brill. So, Robert, there's a lot in common between us. We both had long careers in advertising and started our own agencies. I'm curious, how did you transition from being employed in advertising to starting millions in revenues in your agencies and your ventures?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Naja. I spent when I started my agency, it had been 10 years that I had been working in advertising, doing media buying work primarily for big agencies, so Universal McCann and Starcom, and then some mid-sized agencies. Clients I touched include Sony Pictures, Disney, Sony and Disney Video Games, Capcom, Bacardi, Toshiba, PetSmart. And, I learned over a decade, I've come to understand how big corporations wield lots of dollars in order to generate sales for their clients. And I thought there was an opportunity to go into the market, especially as the data and targeting and automation business started to become a thing. 2008 to 2010, you had the rise of programmatic advertising, which is, auctions and real-time bidding and et cetera. And I was lucky to and fortunate to be able to be at the forefront of that and launch an agency business that allowed us to take advantage of that in the early days of that evolution in 2010. And by 2013, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for myself. And it was hard because I felt comfortable as a practitioner of the media buying practice. Like I knew what to do. We had used Media Math, which had recently gone bankrupt now, and it's rising as Media Math, powered by I think Infillion, which is a company that's taking over Media Math assets. But I learned on Media Math, to Mogul, which had been sold eventually to Adobe, and a few other platforms. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make this accessible to small and mid-sized businesses. But in starting that business, I realized there's the whole slew of things I didn't know about business to be successful. So I had no experience really selling. I had no experience operating a business, although I had operated a business unit. And it took me a lot of time to figure all that out. And because I saw so many challenges in the digital ad buying space, I thought, let me try something else first. Let me try influencer marketing. Let me be a social media expert, which I'm not a social media expert. I'm an ad buying expert. I'll be an influencer. Well, that failed, even though I got paid like $2,500 once to create a Vine by Holiday Inn Express. And, I tried all these different things, and eventually I had to accept the fact that the only way to achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve was to run straight through the brick wall and figure out how to make digital and programmatic advertising work for our business. I had to figure out how to sell. I had to figure out product market fit, and I had to figure out how to ensure that people would spend money with us. And it took a few years, and I did. And the biggest learning for me, I think, shifting from an employee to an entrepreneur, was mindset. And this was around 2013. I hadn't really thought about mindset, but I thought of it's a little bit of woo-woo, and only certain types of people are into mindset. But as I sit here as a 42-year-old in 2024, that's the biggest indicator of success. How are you going to handle when things don't go your way? How are you going to handle the challenges? And when you get punched in the face, when life punches you in the face, how are you going to react to that? And that's all about mindset. And so that's how I made the shift from employee to entrepreneur, was really understanding and focusing on mindset.
Hearing you speak, I feel that you're literally talking to me,
Yeah.
because I've recently branched out from employment and started on my own, and I'm facing exactly the beasts that you have faced probably 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
I all of a sudden, like, instead of focusing on my specialty back when I was employed, now I have a plethora of other things that I have to worry about, including, and mainly is the how to get in front of clients. So how
Yeah.
did you do that specifically? Because okay, you sometimes and I heard it in our industry with all my colleagues who were doing advertising, then they develop like some sort of relationship with a particular client. Let's say, I know at least one of my friends did that. He developed a particular relationship with one of the banks,
Yeah.
and the people in the bank, and then he branched out, started his agency, and guess what? This bank was their first client,
Yeah.
and this sets them up for success. However, because I moved from Dubai in the Middle East to California, I don't have that luxury, because the clients I
Yeah.
worked for, including some really big brands,
Yeah.
similar to kind of your profile, um, are back in the Middle East, right? So now I have to figure out ways to get in front of clients from scratch. So how did you get your first client, and what advice would you give to me starting off here in
100%.
California?
So I also had 0 clients. A little more insight into the story. The company I had worked for was a small sister company for a larger ad agency. The larger ad agency went bankrupt, and all the relationships were burned. So I even the clients who I thought, I was like, hey, let's go get ConocoPhillips. I told someone, let's go get the Fortune 4 company in the world at the time, and let's have them be our client, which was the most ridiculous thing. But everything was burned. So and I was just like, okay, this is horrible. Like, I was running this little business unit and we were doing fine, and next thing you know, the big agency's gone. So what had happened was I decided I'm going to start my agency, and then I took a full-time job. 3 months into it, I was like, oh, this is really hard. I'm really scared. I don't know what to do. I just took a full-time job. I didn't like that full-time job. It wasn't in my zone of genius, and I had become a bad employee. This was already in me that I was going to start it, and I was kind of like half-baked to go take another job. So basically the point is, I started with 0, no clients. And then as I got clients, they were small businesses, like literally $500 a month paying me in fees. And I can't pay my rent on $500 a month. So I had to have money in the bank, which I did, luckily. So I was frugal, relatively speaking. So the way I find clients, and the way I advise you to find clients, is to determine product market fit. The way you determine product market fit for a services business, a B2B services business, is you talk to a bunch of people. You talk to everyone who will listen to you. You go to conferences, you go to events, you go to networking, you do all of it. And the thing was, for me, is, when you talk about programmatic advertising, even today in 2024, you talk to 10 different people about what programmatic is, who know what it is, they will all have slightly different definitions of what programmatic advertising is. So what I learned, it took me a little bit of time, but what I learned is that don't use that word, which then leads into this other idea. Use words and phrases that people understand so that they can spend money with you, because the minute someone's confused, there's no opportunity for them to spend money with you. They're going to just leave that conversation. So for about a year and a half, 2 years, I paid attention to the conversations that I had, and I paid attention to what I said, and I paid attention to whether or not people's eyes were glossing over. The benefit for me, though, is I was tied into the Los Angeles is my market. I had spent 10 and then 11, 12, etc. years in advertising in Los Angeles. So I had a network, and I spent a year and a half in New York. So I had knew some people in New York, but I had the benefit of a network. But even that's not enough, because the people who knew me as the person who runs advertising campaigns, not the person who can be a successful entrepreneur. So I had to find new people. But the sustaining clients that we have to this day are the clients that come from referrals. And a big part of and I'll go back to answering your question, a big part of our business right now is creating an actual perpetual motion machine through marketing, right? Marketing and advertising. We're a marketing agency. We know how to market and advertise other businesses. We need to do ourselves. We need to learn the practice of sales. We're looking for, the guiding light here is predictable, repeatable, and scalable business growth. So my advice to you is figure out that product market fit. I'm going off of, whatever money I had, I assumed it was never going to be enough. So I was like, I have no money. Every dollar I spend, I've got to be able to find a way to spend less of it and not spend it at all, right? Whether you have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, you just need more money as runway for the future, right? So figure out that product market fit. I would say get your repetitions in, because no matter what you've done in the past, this is a different game now. It's a different game. It's your business. It's your money. It's your time. You get to set the rules. And the best way for me that I found successful was I over-serviced my $500 a month restaurant client. I serviced them because I needed to get the repetitions. How does it feel? What does it look like to service a small business of that size? And then I became better at talking. And I knew what to say to get people to spend money with us. And I realized I can't do this on my own. So I resorted to partnerships. I said, look, if you get us in the door, we'll ensure that you get you'll make some money off of the deal as long as you help us close it, or whatever the case is. So, 100% of very little is not good. Half or a quarter or whatever the number is off of a big number is far better. So that's how we started the business. And I looked at everything. I looked at consulting gigs. I looked at marketing. You've got to find the system you can do. Now, in practice, what I did for a while, I spent a year and a half. I hired someone, paid him like $300-400 a month. I was like, I need you to post on Twitter every single day. And I need you to post about these 5 or 10 topics around advertising. Nothing came of it. And a year and a half later, I got our first deal, which was a big deal for us. But it took a year and a half of constant posting. You just got to get good at it. So product market fit. What do you do or say to ensure that people spend money with you?
Should I focus on like one service? Because with 15 years of experience, I can be of value to many clients in a variety of different marketing services.
Right. So there's a few things I would look at. The first is look at your relationships. Are there any? I mean, you may not have the relationships because they're in Dubai and you're in California. I would do the following related to your and this is very similar to how we put together an advertising or a marketing plan. Number one, what are your business goals? Money, clients, prestige, whatever the case is. What are your business goals? When do you want to achieve them? Number two, what's the transformative value for your clients? Like, what did they get? Because it's not important what you do. What's important is what they get, right? The third thing is, what have you done in the past for your business that has been successful, and what have you done in the past that has been a failure? So literally anything that you've done, whether you spend money on it or not. What was the outcome of those actions, and what do you think you can create predictable, repeatable, and scalable systems around? And then I would look at your economics. What's the value of a client? How much, what's your margin? All those economic components. What are your financial goals, etc. And then I would put together a series of actions that would achieve those business goals based on the budget you have. And you can do that with like no advertising budget. And chances are you probably don't need to advertise right now, realistically, because it doesn't sound like you have product market fit. And so what I would do is, within a very narrow scope, try everything. Like, think about the clients: small business clients, mid-sized clients, large clients. Try a little bit of everything, and you've just got to have enough money to survive until you hit product market fit. And that's essentially what I did. It wasn't, I would say I didn't have, I just sort of intrinsically figured that out. And I'll give you my example. My example was, I had someone who was getting paid on commission, do influencer marketing. That never sold. I had someone who, I was trying to figure out consulting. I'm going to do advertising and programmatic consulting. I got some money on that. That didn't really work out. And then I tried a few other things, and I said, okay, the thing that I'm the best at, my zone of genius. And by the way, that's another point. What's your zone of genius? What do you just know how to do? If someone wakes you up at 2 a.m. and says, give me information, you could just say. I literally had a dream last night. That I got into an argument with someone who got the dates wrong of when programmatic advertising launched. And I was so incredibly upset. I was about to leave the room because they were so disrespectful to an understanding of this ecosystem. It's like, no, you guys are wrong, and I'm going to die on this hill. Okay, right? So what is the thing that is your zone of genius? I would narrow that down. And then, so those are big ideas, and you can do a little bit of work to figure that out. There's no template. It's just answering those questions and making good and putting those ideas on paper. The next thing I would do to get very tactical for you is the following. The tactical components are going to be, I don't care if you're selling to Fortune 500 brands or the mom and pop, restaurant down the road. Get on TikTok. It is so important. So there's a few things. Oh man, I'm excited now. Okay. There's a few things. Number one, get on TikTok and post every day, even a few times a day, about your zone of genius. Just create stuff. Talk about the things, talk about the learnings, talk about the tools, talk about your experiences. There's and a great person who does this. His name is Edward Sturm. He has a show called The Edward Show, and I paid him a few $1,000s to learn SEO from him. And he's such a great guy. And so this is his tactic. His tactic is he's a growth hacker, and all he does is he figures out ways to hack things. I'm not into growth hacks. I'm into the fundamental things. And what he does that's fundamentally accurate is he does the same thing every single day until he gets so good at it that it just dramatically grows. And it's like that thing that I did with Twitter in 2015, 2016. Nothing's going to happen for a year and a half until you get like hundreds of thousands of dollars of business from it. And then it grows, right? So create videos every day, get better at it, learn the tools on how to create that content, right? Because you're not in the business right now. You're not in the business of providing, you're not in the business of doing operational work. You're in the business of figuring out product market fit. So you've got to learn a new set of skills that you may or may not already have. Like, for me, getting on video, and I have 2 iPhones there. I have the stand, I have the mic. The mic is a Shure SM7B. I have the cloud filter and the Focusrite. None of that comes naturally to me. I got 3 mics or 2 mics before this one, actually probably 3, until I figured this out. Everything I've done, I've iterated the heck out of it until it got suitable for me. So you've got to become really good at talking about your thing so that you can get people to buy from you. So number one is get on TikTok and post every day. Number 2, I would be involved in X, technology X. Like, for example, going back to TikTok, we engage with an AI specialist, and he's going to build us some systems. They're not particularly expensive. I don't know if it's your price point, but he's going to build us some systems. And it puts us in a pole position to be good with TikTok. So good with AI, I mean. So the point of that is to say, you'd be surprised where your business goes if you get out there and talk about what you're doing. And then this other idea that like the curious learner bias, which is the idea that, I don't think you're learning your core practice. You're an expert in that, but you're learning how to be available and accessible to your clients, and that can be part of your journey of being being the curious learner. Anyway, so you want to talk about that. So post every day on social platforms, and there are systems you can use, like Descript, for example. I don't know if you use Descript, but it's a tool that makes video editing very, very easy and very, very good and very, very fast using AI. So tinker, like you've got to be a tech tinker, and I think that's probably in your nature from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm fully aware. I have started the podcast for that specific reason, because I feel that I can talk to interesting people, have a stimulating conversation, learn a lot from professionals like you, and also generate content. So every podcast as soon as I'm finished, I'm done with this podcast. You've got the long form edited version, and then you've got the shorts, right? So I generate maybe 10 to 20 shorts from every episode, and a lot of them have nuggets of information that goes on TikTok, X, LinkedIn, all sorts of social media. And a lot of them contain the things that I'm passionate about, the things that I work with clients on. And one of them would be the conversational websites that I just created, like an explainer video that I like to play right now, as a kind of like a sponsor of that episode, if you don't mind.
Love it.
Let's do it.
At Parrots Lab, we craft these digital facades to not just catch the eye, but to start a conversation, to invite the world into your story. In the AI era, users don't need to browse your website, they can converse with it. The homepage emerges as a canvas of clarity, a menu simplified, and a call to action that encourages engagement.
I'm your guide, your first handshake, the beginning of a bond. Tell me, what are you looking for today?
Besides our AI companion, a video introduces your brand, enhancing the dialogue already in motion. Every visit is an opportunity for a deeper connection. The footer anchors the homepage, where interests turn into subscriptions and connections span networks. And when curiosity is kindled, the Discover section awaits. Here, stories await your audience, offering glimpses into your brand's heartbeat, each an invitation to learn more. At Parrots Lab, we're on a mission to build the next generation of conversational brands. Companion brands brought to life with AI-powered agents that boost your customer experience and amplify your brand influence. Book your demo today.
That's amazing.
What do you think?
The question is, there's two questions I have. Number one, what's the time and financial cost? And then, can it get hacked? Like, can I get an AI to tell me, say things that are associated to my brand that I don't want it to say?
Stress testing. We've got to stress test the agent before deployment, and keep on making sure that it doesn't say whatever, like things that we don't want it to say. And then the knowledge architecture, as well as the instructions. I spent the whole 2023 learning about all of that. And also, I think the main insight is that, people say, oh, we have an AI chatbot. It's in this little bubble in the corner of our website. And, these bubbles have earned such a bad reputation that you gotta remove that bubble and put your AI agent as a centerpiece, because now this agent is no longer a rule-based chatbot that mostly doesn't work. Now this agent is a living entity. It can, it knows so much more about your products and services, more than probably your best salesperson. So yeah, my argument or my thesis is about like putting it right there and making your entire website fit around that agent. And I'm trying to convince clients that this is the way forward, and this is the future of your website, basically.
You're going to want to look at partnerships. You can go business direct. I mean, look, our business model is there's some similarity here. Our business model is white label media buying for agencies. So most of our clients are other agencies, creative shops, social media, strategy firms who don't do media buying, right? And when we talk about media buying, we're talking about like running ads on Facebook or X or on Hulu, etc., with the goal of generating a lead or a sale, right? That's what we're doing. So most of our clients are companies that know they need it and know that they don't want to deal with it because it's different enough from their core business that it's not in their zone of genius. So, there's application there for you, right? Your application is going to be marketing companies, healthcare companies, any sort of company with a sort of spoke and hub model, right? There's the central company in the middle, and then all their different clients that go around that. And you want to talk to those types of companies, consulting firms, Accenture, and there's probably dozens of other ones that are smaller. The other learning I have over time is that there's a few things. Number one, I don't need to be a Fortune 500 company. I'm an Inc. 5000 company and a Financial Times 500 company, but Fortune 500 are the largest in the United States and arguably the world. Probably let's say the United States. And I don't need to sell to those companies to have a good life and a successful business. So, I think you could find mid-size agencies and marketers. There was a show just recently called Traffic and Conversions. It was in Vegas. It's there's another show after that called Affiliate Summit West. You can there's a lot of application there for marketers, and you don't have to exhibit there. You can just talk to people, and this is part of your attempt at getting product market fit. And so I'll say that because it cost me a total of $3,200 to go. I booked it way in advance, so the tickets were less expensive. Flight, did I capture my flight? I think I did. Flight, hotel room, tickets, $3,200. And that's good. You're going to get 3 days of learning and meetings and discussions, and this will be particularly novel to that marketplace. For example, there's a company called Vendasta that does sort of like white label services like listings and social media and website development and all that. And this would be really cool and they sell to agencies. So any client of theirs would be agencies. You could sell this service as a solution to the agencies that are part of Vendasta, for example. There's so much you could do there through partnerships. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the ability to scale up going direct to business, because it's hard going direct to business. And this is, I'm naturally an entrepreneur. I know how to integrate our existing systems with other companies, which is what I did for one of the agencies I worked for. And I've done that throughout my relationship. We build systems and teams for multiple different companies, and it works really well. You may be the person that maybe doesn't have the relationships to go direct to a business, but has the opportunity to connect to, business amplifiers like agencies.
I like to ask all my guests, the first time you discovered ChatGPT and start interacting with it, what was your first impression?
With ChatGPT, look, I think I started using it in December of 2022, right when it came out, and possibly even November. And basically, I was like, "Oh, this is amazing. Let's do this." And so I, started playing with it. And over the year, I started using Jasper.ai, Writesonic. I had reworked with Grammarly. I started working with Grammarly again. Started using Descript for video editing. But what I learned on ChatGPT is that it's an accelerator. Anything that would take me 20 to 60 minutes to do, it could do for me in a minute and a half or 2 minutes. That's what I use it for. And separate, I told the team about this. I was like, "Oh, look at this cool tool." And so, I was like, "Hey, use this." And they had used other things like Quillbot is a tool they use, and I'm sure they use other things. But in aggregate, I told our team, I was like, "Look, use this learn about it. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to officially implement it in any of your processes, because that's the one thing I knew about tech, right? It gets smarter while we all get dumber. We age and get worse. It ages and gets far better. So I was like, just don't lose track of it. You don't want it to be like 2028 and you like don't even have a clue of how this stuff works, right? I saw people in the advertising business that happened to them. They're like, I don't want to use AI enabled advertising, and now they sell real estate because they're not in the business anymore because it got away from them. So by the end of the year, we I understood the deployment of chat agents, and we created. I met someone on TikTok, and he was like, "Here's how you create a chat agent of your own." And I did it. And I was like, "This is horrible. I have no idea what I'm doing." I had there's a part of it where you can write in natural language what you wanted to do, and then there's a part of it that you can tell it what to do with kind of like more specific, not really code, but it's very specific that I didn't know how to do. I was like, the part that the first version of it where I had like specific things to tell it, but I had to do it in a certain format. I was like, I have no idea how to do this. So the second one I did, I created a copywriting bot, because we're media people, we're data people, and we're paying copywriters. Let's see what happens if we do the copywriting ourselves via the bot. And it's great. We pass along the savings to our client. Everything gets done a lot faster. And the ads perform, based on our study, 42% better in Google search than the human written copy. We're like, all right, this is a good thing. And we keep the revenue, right? The client still pays us for creative. We lower their costs, so they participate in the savings. But you create a lot more, so the thing that's really important for advertising in 2024 is you have these black box systems. Meta is a black box system. Google with their Performance Max is a black box system. TikTok has smart ads, black box system. Black box really just means instead of targeting a bunch of different keywords or different targeting parameters, you go very, very broad, and you let the algorithm determine who should see your ad and which combination of the creative they should see. And as a result of that, you need more creative executions. More is better in this case, because different types of imagery and text and videos, etc., resonate with different types of people. So we don't want, in the old days, right? You make a Super Bowl spot, it takes $5 million to create the ad, and then another $5 million or $10 million to run it. Now you just need volume, minimum level of quality, certainly, but volume of ads. And we could get that with the copywriting tool. Now, I will tell you that it's not just a 2-minute exercise. It takes about 30 minutes because you're inputting the parameters, you're telling it what you want it to do, you're telling it to scan the advertiser's website for how they talk about their business already. You give it multiple rounds of iterative revisions to look at, and you curate everything, right? We're not just going to give it like unadulterated what the AI says. We curate everything, and we got like 50 different ads out of it. But it would have cost us, anywhere between $500 and $2,000, depending on the scope of work, to output that volume of ads elsewhere. And so we're doing it for less. And we get to keep some of that money in-house and pass along the savings to our client.
That's amazing. First of all, I thought that ChatGPT, especially when it comes to advertising, many times I'm trying to create like a headline for an ad. It takes a lot of prompting for me to really start to getting anything of value when it comes to copywriting. So it's amazing to see that you have implemented that and you're getting even better results out of it. I started to get my feet wet when it comes to running ads, and you're absolutely right. Today, the Facebook platform, Google platform, even LinkedIn. I'm focusing a lot on LinkedIn these days. They are so complex, and it's definitely not my zone of genius at all. But I'm really running my own ads because I'm trying to keep my spending to the minimum. And I have on LinkedIn, I have this video that I just showed you with 5 different variations when it comes to the headline. And I'm not seeing much of the results. Maybe because, is there like a minimum amount that I have to be spending?
So what are you optimizing to? What's your objective on those ads?
Booking demo calls.
Yeah. So
on a landing page.
That video is not a good ad video.
Mm-hmm.
So the tenets of advertising, right? You have like a few seconds to capture someone's attention. You've got to say something that's entertaining, educational, or somehow inspiring or motivating. You don't have to create one ad. You create many, and one of them will be right. So our process here, I'll tell you specifics, but I'll tell you how we get there. I'll show how it works. Number one, we start with Meta, which I get it. Meta, you may think it's not your right audience. But here's why it's a good platform to start with. It has the absolute hands-down best algorithm in the marketplace. So if you want to talk about AI and machine learning, that's the place to start. The result of Meta, running ads on Meta, is that you will learn which creative executions resonate most for your business. And then you take the learnings from Meta over the course of a month or 2 or 3, and you push them into LinkedIn or wherever else you're going to run ads. So here's the process. Here's in all the gory detail of the process. Number one, on Meta, do broad targeting: age, gender, and location. Age is the age of the people who you might think you transact with. Gender is men and women because it doesn't make a difference for you. And then location. If you can transact with people all across the United States, your location is the United States. Number two, you run a creative testing framework. And the creative testing framework allows you, it happens in 3 steps. Step one is you create the ads. And creating the ads is you create 5 ads a month that all work together. And the ad is comprised of 3 different components: headline, image or video, and primary text. You disassemble those elements. So you have 5 times 5 times 5. And then you reassemble them in all the possible different combinations. So you have 125 different possible ads. Then you look at estimated action rate. So you can determine out of the 125, which are the top 20. And then out of the top 20, which is the top 1 ad, your all-star ad out of the 125. And you do that over the course of a month, and you're still optimizing to leads and sales. So you might get some leads along the way, some calls. At the end of that month, you will understand your all-star ad. The next component for you is you take that all-star ad, you put into LinkedIn. And then month 2, you do the same, and you're going to have another all-star ad you put on LinkedIn, etc. So you push them. So step 1 in this process all is broad targeting: age, gender, and location. Step 2 in this process is the creative testing framework. Step 3 is not an action, but an output. You are training Meta's machine learning algorithm to find your best customers. Further, you will understand the images or video, the text, the headlines, the offers, the discounts, the audiences that resonate with your business. So not only will you get ads that work, this is a form of product market fit or product testing. You will learn how to be compelling in the digital environment so that you can get customers. You will know what to say and how to exist in that environment. Positive text, do you say something positive or do you say something negative? All those things you learn over time. And then you push all those learnings into LinkedIn or Google Ads or whatever the case might be. And this is why we advocate for people not doing the advertising themselves. That is not your zone of genius.
Yeah, that's not my zone of genius, and you're making perfect sense. The question, though, how much would someone like me would have to spend in the first testing phase, the first month that you were talking about? Should I spend like $500, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000?
I would say so. For context, our services start at $1,500 a month. We manage the ads for $500, and $1,000 goes to the platform. you don't stop. The thing is, you don't stop it. So it's $1,500 a month. So I'm not saying you should do this. I'm saying when you're ready to do it, I'm not saying you should do it now, but when you are ready to do it, you want to commit to 3 to 6 months of doing this, and it'll start to pay for itself. If you have the product market fit, or if we can find you the product market fit.
Got it.
That's the point.
So, so the start is really the creative, making sure that the video, whatever, and producing many of them so that we can test, A/B test a lot of
images.
Creative executions. Yeah.
Start with images. You don't have to do video. The other thing on LinkedIn, by the way, there's a few things you want to do on LinkedIn. Number one, you want to optimize for leads. Number two, the leads are going to be informed leads, in LinkedIn leads. So do that rather than getting people to your website. But then you need a sales process, right? One of the things I've learned along the way, you need sales development reps to follow up with people. You need business development reps to get to the proposal or money stage. You need a CRM system like HubSpot. And you may have all this, but a lot of businesses run advertising and they're like, well, where's all the business? And the answer is, well, I don't know. Did you follow up with them? Did you sell them? Different part of the business.
What do you think of SEO? The reason why I'm asking you, because you've noticed that ChatGPT are opening their GPT store, and in the near future, I could imagine that the ChatGPT would be the interface of the internet, where people would go, instead of right now, people still go to Google to find information, but in the near future, people will go to ChatGPT to find information. So if that's the case, so what happens to all the SEO that we used to do?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what's going to happen a decade from now, but there's still look at television, for example. $60-70 billion in the US is still being spent on television. That's a dying channel. So I think SEO is a really great, if you're looking at the next outlook of the next 5 years, SEO. Billboards, for example. Are billboards going to go away? Maybe. If we have driverless cars, and you don't have to actually pay attention to the road while you're driving, you're going to have a car that's autonomous, that's full of screens, and you're going to have your phone in your hand, and you're going to have ads everywhere, right? So then someone came up to me a few years ago and said, should I buy a billboard because driverless cars are going to take away the attention? And the answer is, yeah, maybe, but that's not going to happen for 10 or 20 years. You're trying to build your business today, definitely do SEO. There will it will be painfully obvious to people that SEO is no longer valuable, and then you can stop focusing on SEO. It won't be a question anymore. It'll be an obvious statement. Until it becomes obvious, focus on SEO. I think the government is going to take a much more proactive role in the data and the privacy elements of AI. A much more proactive role than it did with the creation and deployment of the internet. I think that we have an opportunity to create systems and modes of communication that are far different than we're currently used to. I don't know if those opportunities will be taken, but it's quite possible that so I have a video going viral right now on TikTok that's and I don't have videos going viral often. It happened twice in the last 3 years. So it's not a common thing for me, where it's an AI having a sales conversation with a human. And it's all right, that to me points to AI as a similar backbone to what steel was at one point in our country, to what electricity was at one point in our country, to what the internet is. You're an AI enabled or an AI infused company, but your company is still manufacturing or whatever the case is. So it could easily be a backbone component of our economic infrastructure. I think consumer facing experiences will probably in the short term will look like our current experiences. Look at Bing, for example. You have content, you have AI, and you have ads surrounding that environment. It's hard for me to prognosticate because I'm not in that world to tell you that it's gonna look like Minority Report in like 30 years. I don't know that, but I have the feeling that humans have the ability, are wired to take an existing technology or take a new technology and make it look very similar to the existing technology, but like with slight differences, which then leads me to believe that there will be tech, or there will be AI, there will be ads at the end of the day. So, but I think long term, I think we're going to be our world will look fundamentally, dramatically different and unrecognizable in the year like 21, 24, for example.
Robert Brill, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Najat. Really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the time. And let's talk some more.
Absolutely.